At 3:17 a.m., the house inhaled. I don't mean that metaphorically. The walls expanded, the floorboards arched upward, and a deep, wet breath crawled through the corridors like a living thing. The sound pressed against my ears, heavy and intimate, as if the house had finally noticed me. That was the moment I realized the house on Ravenscroft Hill wasn't abandoned. It was waiting. Ravenscroft Hill sat on the outskirts of Salem, Massachusetts, far from the tourist routes and candle-lit ghost tours. No signs pointed toward it. No guidebooks mentioned it. Locals didn't even like saying its name. When asked, they would pause, swallow, and change the subject. But history remembered it. Built in 1691, a year before the Salem Witch Trials reached their bloody peak, Ravenscroft House belonged to Elias Ravenscroft, a magistrate known for his cold logic and religious cruelty. He believed evil could be measured, tested, and extracted, like disease. More than 30 accused witches were imprisoned in the basement of his home. None survived. Official records claimed illness, starvation, or natural causes. But unofficial journals told another story, of screaming nights, iron tools, prayers spoken backward, and a man who believed suffering brought salvation. In 1702, Elias Ravenscroft locked himself inside his house during a storm. The house burned to the ground by morning. No body was ever found. I first learned about Ravenscroft House while researching forgotten locations for my podcast, Dead Frequency. I'd covered prisons, asylums, and battlefields, but Ravenscroft stood out. Not because of the deaths, but because people were still dying there. In 1923, a family of 5 vanished after attempting to restore the land. In 1978, 3 teenagers broke in. Only one came back, blind and screaming about faces in the walls. In 2009, a historian named Margaret Lowe went missing during a private investigation. Her recorder was found at the base of the hill. The last thing it captured was breathing. Not hers. The house shouldn't have existed anymore. But when I climbed Ravenscroft Hill, there it was, whole, intact, and impossibly old. The wood looked swollen, like flesh left too long in water. The windows were dark, not broken, just watching. Vines wrapped around the structure in shapes that looked disturbingly intentional, like fingers digging in. The front door was already open. That should have been my sign to leave. Instead, I stepped inside. The air was warm, humid, and smelled faintly of iron. My flashlight flickered, then stabilized, revealing a long hallway with doors on either side. And portraits. Dozens of them. Men, women, children, all painted in the same style, all staring directly forward. All with my eyes. I staggered back, heart hammering, telling myself it was stress, imagination, until I noticed the dates beneath the frames. 1691, 1702, 1923, 1978, 2009, and one empty frame at the end. No date, no face. Yet, the first whisper came from the walls. Not words, names. Spoken slowly, reverently, as if the house were praying. My name joined them. I ran. Rooms blurred past me, each worse than the last. A dining hall with a table set for 30, plates filled with blackened teeth. A nursery where cradles rocked themselves, humming funeral hymns. A study where books bled when opened. No matter how far I ran, I always ended up back in the hallway. Back to the portraits. The empty frame had changed. It was clearer now. Waiting. Dash dash dash. The basement door was locked, thick iron bands crossing the wood. Chains rattled from the other side, pulled tight by something eager. I didn't want to go down there. The house made me. The chains fell away on their own. The stairs descended deeper than the house should allow, spiraling into darkness that swallowed my flashlight beam. The walls were carved with symbols, prayers, curses, confessions etched with fingernails. At the bottom, the room opened wide. Cells lined the stone walls. Inside each cell was a skeleton. But the skeletons were smiling. In the center of the room stood a man in black robes, his body translucent, his face burned and unfinished. Elias Ravenscroft, you came willingly, he said, his voice layered with dozens of others. That makes you worthy. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. The house is hungry, he continued. It feeds on memory, on belief, on those who remember us. I understood then. The house didn't trap victims by force. It trapped those who gave it attention. Researchers, explorers, storytellers, people like me. Dash dash dash. Ravenscroft raised his hand, and the walls began to close in. Faces pushed through the stone, screaming silently, begging to be remembered one last time. History must live somewhere, he said softly. If not in books, then in walls. Pain exploded in my chest as something pulled at me from the inside. Memories flashed. My childhood, my first recording, my voice echoing through headphones. The house was taking me. I screamed, not in fear, but in defiance. I spoke. I told their story. Every name I remembered. Every crime. Every lie. The house shuddered. Ravenscroft screamed as cracks split his form. The walls bled light. The faces began to fade. The house hated truth. It survived on silence. Dash dash dash. I woke up at the base of Ravenscroft Hill at dawn. The house was gone. In its place was scorched earth and broken stone. Authorities said it was exhaustion. Hallucination. A panic episode. They didn't believe me. That's fine. Because history doesn't need belief to exist. It just needs to be remembered. Dash dash dash. Last night, while editing this episode, my microphone picked up something strange. A deep, slow breath. At 3:17 a.m. And behind me, in the dark reflection of my screen, I swear I saw a frame. Empty. Waiting. Dash dash dash. The end.